You don't fall off because you lack discipline. You fall off because your environment is quietly set up for the old version of you. And today, we're going to change that. Welcome to the Doing What You Know Friday community video. These Fridays are about slowing things down just enough to reflect, reconnect, and reinforce what you're building. Not just in your business or goals, but in yourself. If you've had a strong week, great. If it's been messy, you're still exactly where you need to be. Last week, we talked about why discipline isn't enough. Today, we go one level deeper. Because when discipline fails, people usually blame themselves. But most of the time, the real issue isn't internal weakness, it's external structure. You can't build a new identity inside an environment designed for the old one. And most people never audit their environment. They just keep trying harder. Let me give you something real. There was a season when I kept telling myself I needed to be more consistent with content. I had the ideas and I had the message. I even had time blocked out on my calendar. But every time I sat down to record, I'd check one thing first, email, then notifications, then messages. Then I'd quickly check something related. And 30 to 40 minutes would disappear. I wasn't lacking discipline. My environment was wired for distraction. My phone was on my desk. Notifications were on. Tabs were open. The setup itself was pulling me away. The shift wasn't heroic. I changed three things. I put the phone out of reach. I turned the notifications off. Recording first, admin second. Nothing motivational. Just friction removal. My output doubled without me trying harder. That was the moment I stopped blaming willpower. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Environment beats intention almost every time. Your environment includes the people you talk to, the expectations around you, what's visible, what's convenient, what is rewarded. If distraction is easier than focus, distraction wins. If drifting is invisible, drifting grows. If consistency is not reinforced, it fades. We underestimate how much subtle influence shapes us every day. Let me bring this into something tangible. When I first started playing pickleball more seriously, I thought I just needed more reps, more effort, more hustle, but I kept plateauing. Then I started consistently playing with players who were slightly better than me. Not elite, just sharper. And what happened? My shot selection improved. My positioning improved. My awareness improved. No motivational speech, just environment. When you're surrounded by a higher standard, your nervous system recalibrates. You stop debating whether to move. You just move. That's what happens in any growth area. Exposure shapes expectation. Expectation shapes behavior. Most people overlook their digital environment completely. Look at your phone. What shows up first? What's one tap away? If your feed is full of noise, drama, random dopamine hits, that becomes your mental baseline. But if your feed is growth, discipline, structure, action, your baseline shifts. You don't rise to your goals. You normalize what you see repeatedly. Here's your practical exercise. Where is friction highest right now? Ask yourself what behavior feels harder than it should. What do I constantly negotiate with myself about? What do I intend to do, but rarely execute? Now ask what environmental shift would make this easier? Not more effort, less resistance. For most people, the breakthrough isn't intensity, it's design. There was a period where I noticed something interesting. Whenever I stayed highly visible inside the community, my personal standards rose. When I went quieter, my intensity dipped. Not dramatically, just subtly. And that's when it clicked. Visibility creates structure. Environment reinforces identity. And community isn't about motivation, it's about proximity. When people expect to see you, you show up differently. That's why the doing what you know community matters. It isn't about hype, it's about environment, visibility, expectation, structure, shared rhythm. If you're trying to build momentum alone, you're fighting unnecessary friction. Join us at doingwhatyouknow.com/team. You don't need to be stronger. You need to build smarter surroundings. Next week, we're going to talk about accountability, not the forced kind, the chosen kind, because environment works best when you're willing to step into it. If you're watching this and you're not actively inside the Doing What You Know community, understand this. Progress doesn't come from knowing more. It comes from being in an environment that keeps pulling you forward when you normally drift back. That's what this community exists for. Join us at doingwhatyouknow.com/school. It's SKOOL. Get involved, stay visible, and keep doing what you know.